Good morning and welcome to Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with producer Alden Iwani. Our special guest today is Laguna Acoma boys basketball coach, Dan Bachicha. Coach, what an honor it is to have you on. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ed. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
You know, Coach, you were named you've got an extensive coaching tree, and it's an impressive one, and we're going to get into that. There's so many people that you've mentored under, and one of them was your father, Mike Bachicha, the former assistant at Valley High School, and also head coach at Manzano. You mentored under him, but you've got a lot of great trees there, a lot of great limbs, coaching limbs, and we'll talk about that. I'm very impressed. But right now you're the head coach of Laguna Acoma. You were named the head coach of Laguna Acoma in 2019. And, my last game that I called as a referee was out there at Laguna Acoma, and some great atmosphere out there. George Waukee out there before you, Ryan Peel out there. And the Hawks, the community loves their basketball. Talk a little bit about, what was it like when you were named the head coach of Laguna Acoma? You're not playing this year, but talk about your first season there. And you were 17-11, I believe. I think you told me your record was. Talk a little bit about what it was for you to be named as head coach.
It meant a lot. My dad was the former head coach at Manzano High School when I was a little kid, and I always wanted to be a head coach. And it was my dream, and I worked hard and, made that dream a reality. When I got that call from Dr. Eisenbard, who was the principal of Laguna Acoma at the time, and, he gave me the opportunity. It was very emotional. It was very emotional. I called Coach Coleman, I called my dad, called Justin Woody, Frank Castillo, Adrian Ortega, everybody that helped me along the way to get there. I couldn't have done it by myself. I couldn't have done it without having, an amazing support team around me. It was just an emotional day because it was something that I wanted since I was 5 years old. So it was pretty emotional. And then I just, started talking to some of the players, getting to know them a little bit. And then we just got off and running. I mean, I got the job in October, and I had to hire a staff really fast. I had to implement my system pretty quickly. But man, I had a lot of talent. I had Jaden Villegas and Kevin Martin and Andre Chino, and man, I had a lot of talent that could really get up. You hear the term res ball all the time, just run and gun. Man, those kids could just run up and down the floor. We like to press. We could shoot the heck out of the ball. I've never seen a team shoot from the outside so well as we did. And we finished 17-11. I think we should have made the state tournament, but obviously, the district finish rule kept us out of the tournament. But we were unfortunate because we lost to Cuba on a buzzer beater at home, and then we beat them pretty badly over there. But that loss to Cuba in overtime really hurt us. And then Clifton Davidson's son, who plays for Bosque, who was Bosque's best player last year, got hurt against Cuba in their first game against Cuba, and Cuba ended up beating them. If Bosque ended up beating Cuba, we probably would have went to the state tournament. But, the fact that we lost to Cuba at home and then Cuba beat Bosque, they had to go above us. Even though we had the better record, they had a better district finish, and they went with the 16 and we didn't. But you know what? We were a very good basketball team. We won 17 games. It's tough for them because, there's always a lot of turnover at Laguna Acoma. They're used to, coaches leaving them all the time. I'm trying to build that stability here. So they had a new coach in their ear, and they really took to me quite well, took to my system quite well. And, I thought we had a really good year, 17 wins, man. It was great. And you talk about the atmosphere. Man, do they support the Hawks, man. The community, they come out and they pack that gym. It's unbelievable. It almost felt like a state tournament environment every single night. And they travel well. Clifton Davidson at Bosque, he tells me, man, we got to bring in extra bleachers for the Laguna game. We can't, our gym isn't big enough for you guys. We got to bring in bleachers from the soccer field to house you guys. And just having that fan support, that community support, is absolutely amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, there's nothing like that. Again, that was your first year, but I've got a quote. It's from your father. I called your dad, Mike Bachicha, and asked him a little bit about you. And what his quote was, one time he was in the middle of an intense huddle when you were 4 years old, and you came down from the stands, and he looks up and he sees your 4-year-old head in the huddle, and he knows you've got it in you, right? You've got it in you, and you still do. I thought that was a great quote. I remember when you coached at Highland with Coach Woody, and he was a big supporter. He'd show up there, and and you told me that at times when you had games at Laguna, Acoma, Coach Bachicha, Coach Mike Bachicha was there, and oftentimes you'd go in the stands and talk to him. Now, Coach, I think it's fair to ask this, and what was his response? The reaction when you got the job at Laguna, Acoma. What was his advice? What was his tutelage? Because your dad is always going to be in your ear, right? When my son coached at St. Pius, he would ask me. I coached 3 years at Highland, right? I coached 3 years with Ray Rodriguez, and my son would ask me after the game, "What do you think?" So we dissect, man, right? We dissect. He may not always agree with what I said, but talk about what your father said to you when you got your first job at Laguna Acoma. What was his advice?
His advice wasn't so much X's and O's based. It was, be a man of faith. We're strong with the Chichas. We're a strong family of faith. And he just said, you know what, pray, make sure you treat the kids and the parents, the community, your administration the right way, humble yourself, and just love the kids. Just love the kids. We're here to serve the kids. And that was basically his advice to me. It wasn't so much X's and O's per se.
When he goes to watch games, when he does give you advice, and you're going to seek him out, right? He knows the game. He knows the game very, very well. Does he give you then some X's and O's advice or individual suggestions for a player or something? I'm sure he does. What's his advice that you still seek it, Coach, and you always will too. So what does Coach Mike Bachicha tell Coach Dan Bachicha?
Yeah, I did, absolutely. I would always, every single game, he was at every single game, cheering, standing, pumping his fist. And at halftime, after I talked to my assistant coaches, talked to teams, I'd always going up in the stands. And I think some people, before they really got to know me and know my dad, they'd be like, who's he? He's bringing his whiteboard and going over with this random fan. What the world, And, they came to know that it was my dad, former two-time coach of the year at Manzano. And he would just be like, hey, well, watch the weak side. They're not dropping on the weak side of your half-court 1-3-1 trap. They got to sprint and drop to the weak side block, or you're not stopping the ball in transition. You got to make sure that they stop the basketball. You got to make sure you guys, cut to the basket hard. Just don't pass and stand. Make sure you cut and screen away, whatever it might be. Move without the basketball. It just would depend on the situation. And then there was times where he's like, "You're playing really well. I wouldn't change anything." And it was crazy. There was times where I would make my adjustments at halftime with the team, and then after talking to him, I'm like, "Boom, aha moment. Hey, let's huddle really quick, guys. Let's draw this up right here." And it was because of an adjustment that he made from the stands. So that was just a big help having him there, not only as a support system, but as a knowledgeable coach, somebody that's won back-to-back Coach of the Year awards in I believe 86 and 87 at Manzano. So I hope I can bring him on the staff one of these days if he would just retire from being a principal. But he can't get that guy to retire. But once he retires, I would love to bring him on, kind of like how Mike helps out Greg. I think Mike still helps out Greg. I know he helped out Danny too, but last time I was in APS, he was helping out Greg. So I still think he's helping out Greg. But I kind of want to have that with my pop, have my dad come in and get back into coaching,
That would be an awesome thing to see. Your last coach that you worked with, Justin Woody at Highland, who's very, very close to Coach Woody. Coach Bachicha is a hard worker. He's grown up around the game. He is loyal and puts the kids in his program first. That's a quote from Coach Woody from Highland, and I think the world of him, and I know you do too. Let's go into this year. It's been a challenge because the Hawks can't take the court. It's been a challenge for you for sure. I talked to Coach David Medina, who's the boys coach at Naka now, and he said the same thing. He hasn't been able to do anything really because of the pandemic. So talk about a little bit, what's it been like for you during the pandemic and not being able to coach and not being able to play this year, but still, you're still getting things, prepared. You're hoping to get the word any day that you can start. Talk a little bit about what it's been like, the challenge to not play.
It's been hard. As you mentioned earlier, before we went on air, that I'm a gym rat, and you're a gym rat as well. And it's really hard to not be in the gym. But at the same time, I gotta respect that the tribal governors of both, there's two tribes, the Laguna tribe and the Acoma tribe, that all they want to do is keep their people safe. And at the end of the day, their goal is to keep their people safe, and they feel that not to keeping school virtual and to not playing sports is an avenue to keep their people safe first and foremost. So I respect both tribal governors and their council for putting the kids first and their health and safety first. So I completely understand that. Ultimately, it has been a challenge, especially now seeing on social media, coaches posting pictures of them playing games, and that stuff has been hard. But you know what? The kids have worked hard ever since June, because everybody else in June were working in the 5-to-1 pods and stuff like that. We couldn't do that. So ever since June, we've just been doing Zoom workouts. But I put a link up in my Google Classroom for boys basketball, and we work out online. We work out online. A lot of ball handling stuff, a lot of cardio, a lot of stuff like that. And then we're just working out in their room or outside their home. So we're just really doing the best that we can. I'm really trying to get together with my senior parents and trying to put together a virtual senior night for my seniors. Try to send them off in the best way possible. Obviously, they won't have a traditional senior night, but trying to send my seniors off in the best way that I can. I'm trying to, see if I can maybe try and get us to play in the summer. I don't know if we're going to be able to play in the summer or not, but looking into camps, trying to, just in case, because we got to be ready just in case the tribal governors say, okay, it's time to go back. I got to be ready and prepared for that day. But until then, we're just going to keep grinding out with the Zoom workouts. Just controlling what we can control. And, things aren't always going to go our way all the time. And it's something that I always tell the boys. So, just continue to work out virtually. We got to be ready for when the call comes. Hey, it's time to go back. Are we going to come back in shape, or are we going to come back out of shape? Because we haven't done anything for.
Yeah, I think that call is going to come, Coach. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the coaching trees that you coached under after these messages on the sports desk.
Crisp and they look good. Here's Wade in transition.
Hey!
He's gonna flush it home.
Well, for a 2021 Bowl Series here at University Stadium. Short kickoff. Fielded about the 20.
Oh,
Gonzalez got a big gap up the middle,
Big
one man
gap.
to beat. Let's see, beats Contreras.
He's got it.
Gonzalez will return it 80 yards for a touchdown. And it was just a matter of time before he found a crease.
It's a privilege, it's not a right. And I think these kids have found that out.
Wait, this is the quarterback
He's
option.
gonna have it.
We'll break it up the middle for a touchdown.
Good job.
36-yard touchdown run by Juan Fuentes. Following.
Inside, trying to turn it around, draws contact, puts it up, count it, and what opportunity upcoming for Oliveras.
Again, see how they're
back to pass, getting some pressure.
Oh, wide
Complete
open.
to Greathouse might go 50, 45, 40, 30. One man to beat. Fine, no. Breaks out of that tackle. Tight ropes the sideline. Touchdown. Touchdown for Peyton Greathouse.
No.
On a turnover again, Hobned, they've got numbers. Canton. Oh, and the throwdown. Cut off. Ortiz going to take the deep three. Ortiz nails the three-point shot. Time out. Volcano Vista Cougars take a 49-47 lead. 3.3 seconds left.
Just like that. You're at the 1 yard line.
Looking over the middle. Intercepted. It's intercepted. And going down the left sideline, might take it to a house call. One man to beat, cuts it back inside at the 5. 10, one man to beat again. Cuts it back at the 5, touchdown. Interception in the return.
Who was that?
By number 8, Isaac Kinson, who's already scored an offensive touchdown.
11-4 game, 4.9 seconds to go in the first quarter. Bring up the court, Mays going inside, drawing contact, and one opportunity. An attack.
Oh, that's a great inbound play. Mata puts it up, blocked beautifully by Heckrop. Blocked beautifully. Shot at the buzzer's up, and it's good. It's good by number 5, Devin Domino Lovato for 3. That will count.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk, live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with our producer, Alden Iwani. Our special guest today is Laguna Acoma boys coach, Dan Bachicha. And Coach, we mentioned in the first segment about, not being able to play, and you're hoping to get the call from the governor, and it's been a challenge. Zoom workouts are a challenge. You're used to being to seeing your kids, and you've mentioned getting a virtual night for the seniors, which I think is great. Tell us how many graduating seniors you do have.
Oh, off the top of my head, it's going to be hard. Let's see. I think I have 7 seniors this year, and they're all hard workers. I think I would have had the best backcourt in the state, and both of them are seniors. Andre Chino and Jaden Villegas, who I mentioned earlier, they would have been my backcourt this year. Just both really talented, hard-working kids that love basketball. They're both sharpshooters. Andre is really good at getting to the basket. Jasper Jones is another senior. My dad called him my Dennis Rodman because he would do all the dirty things, all the 50-50 balls, rebounding, the dirty things that a lot of players don't want to do. Jasper
Take the charges.
Take the charges, do all the dirty work, So he was like my Dennis Rodman. And then Jacoby Bryant and Julian Toribio, who would come off the bench and hit a couple threes for me, lefty kid. Those seniors are just awesome kids. And it's unfortunate that they're not going to have a season. But, like I said, the governor of Laguna and the governor of Acoma are just trying to keep them safe. And their safety, first and foremost, is the most important thing, and I respect both the governor of both pueblos that, that's their top priority, is keeping the kids safe. And we're just going to do the best that we can. I really want to do a virtual senior night, put a nice PowerPoint together for them, and just do the best we can with the situation.
Coach, I think there's lessons to be learned for everyone, right? I mean, you've coached basketball, gosh, and we're going to go into your coaching tree here in a minute, but I've got another quote. It's from a good friend of mine and a good friend of yours. John Ulibarri he and I were starting forwards at Highland in 1980, and John Ulibarri was one heck of a guy. Could shoot from 25, 30 feet deep. So he met you when he was 19 years old. You're very passionate about coaching. He thinks you coach an exciting brand of basketball, and he says, "Hey, look out for Coach Bachicha." And that's just a quote from one of my best friends in life is John. Him and I are really, really close, and he thinks the world of you. John is like you and I. He'd spend more time in the gym. He's a very busy guy with his roofing business, but he just has all the respect in the world for you.
Yeah, absolutely. John's a great guy. Crazy story about John. It was my first year coaching at Valley under Coleman, and his son Derek Highhouse was on my freshman team. I'm watching the kids do drills, and I'm seeing this parent off on the side by the door bombing it from 30 feet. It'd make 1, 2 in a row, whatever. Finally gets up to about 8 or 10. I just have to go over the guy. I'm like, man, you can sure shoot the basketball. He's like, oh yeah, I play a little bit. I was good in my Highland days. We had a really good basketball team when I was in high school, and I like to play in the adult leagues, and I'll go to Midtown and I'll play. Really humble guy. John's a really humble guy. But man, that guy can shoot the basketball like you said. We'll talk about basketball all the time. We'll go stretches of time where we talk every day for a couple hours on the phone, and then we'll go a couple months without talking, and then when I call him, it just picks up like it's nothing.
That's what he said. When I talked to him yesterday, that's what he said. But I just think that was a great story. I wanted to go in your coaching tree here. Now, no, first you're part of Marty Seiss's history of basketball and a story there. And Marty Seiss has done a wonderful job of covering the state like a blanket everywhere. Him and Dana Childs, producer Dana Childs from ProView Networks, took a trip every weekend, right, to Clayton, to Las Vegas, New Mexico, to Santa Fe, to Espanola, to Hobbs. They've been all over the state. But I want you to mention your part in that story because I think it's a great story. You mentioned that to me a little bit before we got on. Talk a little bit about your part in that, the history of basketball by Marty Seiss.
I played at Valley High School. I made my freshman team. I'm only like 5'3.5", not very athletic. I could shoot the basketball, but that was about it. I was the last guy on the C team. I got cut as a sophomore through senior, and I was the varsity manager for 3 years. And on senior night, Coach Coleman decided to suit me up against Gallup. It's kind of like a Rudy moment. The movie Rudy about the Notre Dame football player. The crowd was chanting Dan the man the whole fourth quarter. Coleman finally puts me in. I slap the floor. On defense, the crowd goes absolutely insane. I have 2 really good looks from the 3-point line, run from the left wing. We're up 1 from the left corner. Both felt good off my hand, but neither one dropped. But it was a great moment. It was a special moment. My teammates, they picked me up off the floor after the game and carried me around. I had 1 finger up in the air. It was just a special moment. I still have the plaque that Marty did. Marty put together a nice plaque for me. I still have that to this day, collecting dust because I'm old. But, it was just a special moment, and I thank Coach Coleman for that moment. Without Coach Coleman and without my teammates and without the Valley community, I wouldn't have that moment. So, and I thank Marty for everything he's doing with the book. It's a wonderful book, and I can't wait to read it. And I'm absolutely, completely humbled that I'm a small part of that book.
I think it's a great story, Coach, and we all have our basketball memories. Every one of us that's involved in the game have some great memories, and sometimes the losses we incurred, we don't forget those either. And those are part of the whole shebang, right? But I wanted to go into your coaching tree, and you mentioned Coach Coleman, 3 championships at Valley. You coached with Adrian Ortega, 2 championships at Atrisco Heritage. Frank Castillo, 5 championships at La Cueva. Justin Woody, a championship appearance last year for Highland. Highland hadn't been to the championship since 2009 and nearly pulled that one off, losing in overtime to Valley. Talk a little bit about Coach Coleman first, and we'll go to Coach Ortega. What did you learn? Again, Joe Coleman, the utmost respect for Joe Coleman as a person and coach. He retired as a two-time back-to-back champion. What did you learn from him?
I learned intensity, competitiveness, never taking a play off. I learned how important the defensive side of the basketball was. Those were some of the things I took away from Coach Coleman. I learned tough love. I learned tough love from Coach Coleman. I got yelled at plenty of times from Coach Coleman, both as a player and as a manager. But I also knew that he cared about. And but one of the things that anybody that was a part of Coach Coleman's program would tell you is that they would run through a wall for Coach. All of them, from the kids that played for him before me, like Alvin Broussard and Junior Sanchez, to me and Eric Consini and Ish Loya, to the kids now, like Aweku and Derek Chavez. Those kids will all tell you the common thing. They will all tell you that we'll go through a wall for Coach.
That's the kind of effect he has on people. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to make sure we get in some other things about Coach Ortega at Sandia. What'd you learn from him?
I learned that you better be on your toes and you better know what you're talking about. I learned that, I'm not just bringing you on to bring you on. I'm bringing you on because you know the game of basketball. I'm bringing you on because you can help the program. He'd call me at 11 o'clock at night. What do you think of my varsity game? And I'm like, I'm 21 years old and I'm your C-team assistant and you're calling me. That's what I was thinking in my head, but I gave him my honest answer and he really cared about my opinion. He'd always ask what all of us thought in huddles, especially I remember one quick story. Valley was in our district, the one possession game. Coach Coleman had just scored. I think we were up 1 or 2. Coach Coleman just scored, called a timeout. And Adrian Ortega looked at me. He didn't look at his other assistants. He looked me straight up and said, well, you were there 5 years. What's he going to do? Told him exactly what he was going to do. And he was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We won the game. Fist bump. Good job. That's something that I hope Ortega sees this. That's a story that I always look at.
That's I don't mean to cut you off. We got about a minute and a half, Coach, and I want you to, that's an awesome story. Frank Castillo, again, just retiring, one of the deans of coaches, right? One of the best coaches there was. What did you learn from Coach Castillo? We've got about a minute left.
One of the things I learned from Coach Castillo is to be calm, cool, and collected in the moment. He's been through everything, 5 state championships. I think that's something I learned, is to be calm, cool, and collected. I stole my 1-3-1 half-court trap from Frank. So those are the things I've learned from Frank.
Coach, going forward for Laguna Acoma basketball, what can we look forward to next year when you do get the word from the governor that it's all clear?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No, I mean, one more thing. What can we look forward to with Laguna Acoma basketball?
I think you could look forward to a couple of, deep runs in the tournament. I think my boys are going to come in hungry. They didn't play this year, and they're eager to get back in the gym. They're always texting me, hey, Coach, when can we get back in the gym? I said, we can't get back in the gym yet. The second we can get back in the gym, I'll let you know. So they're hungry. And I have a lot of talented sophomores, Seth Barger, Johnny Sanchez, Neil Kai, that are really going to help me out, Jaden Penguin. So a lot of talented sophomores that will be juniors next year. And you could expect, for us to go far as long as we have the grades and as long as they're doing the right things in the classroom and we stay healthy. I think you could expect, a couple of deep runs from us.
Control what you can control, like you said. Coach Dan Bachicha, boys head coach of Laguna Acoma Hawks, thanks so much for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next Tuesday on the Sports Desk.